saints, of his people, of those that have been redeemed. And so, brothers and sisters, let us go to Romans. Let's go to Romans. And let us look at the 13th chapter. Romans 13. And let us look around let's see, 13 around 11th verse. And it reads on this wise, brothers and sisters. And it's saying, and that knowing the time. Look at that. Now see, this was written around 57 AD. Paul wrote this letter, this letter to the church or the assembly in Rome. And he wanted them to know, wanted them to understand, wanted them to be cognizant of the time that they were in. Now remind you, he wrote it in 57 AD. Approximately 13 years later, Rome was sacked. Approximately 13 years later, all those that were in Rome, they ran for their lives. They ran in the bush. They ran in the brush. They got out. 13 years later, so Paul was right on point. And so let's look at it. He said, and knowing the time, he wanted them, see, the time hadn't came at that particular moment when Paul wrote this letter. But in the spirit, he knew the time, just like I'm telling you. Various events would lead up to the 19th chapter of Revelation, what we just read. And these events right now, brothers and sisters, what we are witnessing in United States of America, they have implemented Agenda 21. And Agenda 21 is a program that was constructed and engineered by the UN. And the UN agenda is to bring all people into one community and to make the people, cause the people to be totally dependent on the government of this nation. That's what Agenda 21 is. The first thing in Agenda 21 is called sustainable development. And what that is, that's really a relationship between people and nature. They want people to come, you see, listen to this. They want people to be drawn closer to nature. Right now, we are living comfortable. In the wintertime, we can turn the thermostat up or turn it down and be warm. In the summertime, well, we can turn the thermostat up in the wintertime and be warm. In the summertime, we can turn it down and be cool. But guess what's happening? The kingdoms of this world are breaking down and they are reducing the consumption of coal and energy because they feel like people are consuming too much. Population control is underway. This is why we are moving into World War III. Brothers and sisters, World War III has already begun. When you looked at if you watch the debate, you will see that the Republican candidates, the first debate, the one where Huckabee and the others were a part of, each one of them said, we are at war. But many people didn't look at the first debate. Many people were focused on the second. And these debates and this whole campaign is nothing but a diversion. It's a diversion of what they're about to do in the kingdom, what already has been done, brothers and sisters. What you have to understand, the economy is toast. The economy has collapsed. The dollar is toast. You just don't know it yet. To keep everything afloat, what they doing is they just dumping more money into the system. How they dumping more money into the system? They printing more money. But they don't have the gold or oil or anything to back that money up. It's just paper. It's just IOUs. And you got the boxer, the famous boxer, y'all know Money. He often take pictures in front of a stack of cash. And that stack of cash is nothing but IOUs. The money won't even be worth toilet paper, brothers and sisters. I think I said it in the last video. And so what you have to understand, we are headed into some treacherous time. And this is why Paul said back then, and I'm saying to you now, knowing the time. Many people are asleep. They are comatose. They are unconscious. They're not sensitive to what is really going on because the system is fanning you to sleep consciously. You're not aware. They fan you asleep with sporting events. Every month there is a sporting event to keep you occupied. They fan you down with entertainment, award shows. There are so many award shows out there. It's ridiculous. Brothers and sisters, knowing the time. Yeah, I'm going to get to the wedding garment. I think I'm taking too long. My goodness, Father, help me. But you got to be cognizant of the time. You got to be fully aware. Yeah, it's late. Be sensitive, brothers and sisters. And so this Agenda 21, you have sustainable development, then you have smart growth. What is smart growth? It's the development of urban, suburban, and rural areas. Back in the 70s, when we drove out into the rural areas, the country, it was the country. But now, my wife and I, we drive and we look for land. You know, even in the rural areas, they have a town there and they have plazas. Things that they have in the suburbia, they have out in the rural areas. That's smart growth. They want to bring the people together. You can't hardly buy acres of land. It's so expensive. Something that people pay decent and reasonable amount of money back in 20 years ago. Back 20 years ago. It was affordable. People, they were able to get land. But now, they selling you 5, 6 acres in subdivision. That's smart growth. Brothers and sisters, we are here. Paul saying, knowing the time. The next step in Agenda 21 is social justice. Social justice is redistribution of the wealth. Taking wealth from one and giving it to and spreading it around. Don't you remember in the campaign when President Barack Obama was debating with John McCain? John McCain told President Barack Obama, he said, that then Senator Obama, he said, you want to spread the wealth around. And that's what social justice is. It's all part of the Agenda 21 that's already been implemented right here in the United States. And so the wealth will be, what is that? Once you spread the wealth around, it will be easier to implement the mark. You know, there's a new grocery store, a market that's up the street. And it's a nice market. It's somewhat like I just say WF store. And this market, it has everything. And when I walked in there, the thought came to me, this can be a tool when the system collapses. This can be a place where the mark of the beast, where people receiving the mark, it can easily be ushered in. Because many people are not prepared. Many people are not stacking up. Many people don't have seeds. They don't have water. They don't have extra food. They just buying clothes and just kicking it up. This can be easy when the system collapse and there's no food. And when you don't have food and you see this market and you try to go in there and buy, they say, no, you cannot come in here until you get a mark. Many people will get the mark. And guess what? Many of the churches, many of the pastors would tell the people, you can receive that mark because Jesus hasn't returned. Because people have been told the greatest, the biggest lie known to man, that quote unquote Jesus, Jesus is going to return before the tribulation is ushered in. And many people still believe that. Hogwash. And so, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. We have entered into a time where Agenda 21 is off and running. What else is involved? What else is all these different segments of programs that has been implemented in the Agenda 21? You have green energy. They want to get you off the fossil fuel. They tired of people driving around in these cars, burning up all the gas. And then they want to reduce that. On Grand Avenue here in St. Louis, they put a bike trail all the way from the Fox Theater area and beyond, all the way down to Highway 70. They're going to get those cars off the road. But you have, like Paul say, knowing the time, brothers and sisters. And so, let me move on. I'm taking a long time. My goodness, Father, help me. I don't want to. Then you have green energy, and then you have carbon free, which go along with green energy. Carbon free is get all these cars off the road and quit burning so much coal. Brothers and sisters, we are headed there. You're going to be cold in the winter. You're going to be hot in the summer. The time is coming. You may not believe me and you may ignore me, but the time is coming, brothers and sisters. And finally, part of the Agenda 21 is livable communities, where you have everybody bunched together as one. That's where we headed, brothers and sisters. So the UN have helped establish that in the United States, and it's growing daily. Many people don't notice it because you're preoccupied. You're shouting in church every Sunday. You're hollering. You don't know. And Yahushua said, take my yoke up on you and learn of me. He didn't say, take my yoke up on you and shout about me. Or skip or play the organ. Learn. You can't learn nothing with all that stuff going on. There's a communication gap that's taking place when a preacher is preaching and an organ is playing. Your emotions are being fed. He say something to your emotion and you say, hey, you ain't learning nothing. This is why people come out as dumb as when they went in. And this is all in the United States still. All in the Caribbean. Over in this Western culture. Europe, most of them don't even do that no more. Most of your churches in Europe are museums. Brothers and sisters, we are here knowing the time. Now let me get back to the scripture here. It says in verse 11 of the 13th chapter of Romans, it says, and that knowing the time, how it is high time to wake out of sleep. I just gave you an example. Let me give you another example. You have 200 million college graduates that cannot find a job. But yet in America, you have an 18/19 trillion debt. And I read somewhere that they said it's really almost 200 trillion. That's ridiculous. And then you have students that can't pay into to bring the debt down. But many people, they don't get it because they dumping money, and so they spreading the merchandise around, and it's easy to get. When they say spread the wealth around, they ain't just talking about money. It's talking about merchandise. It's talking about food, the synthetic foods that you eat, the GMO, because there's not enough food. So what they doing modified foods. It escaped me. Genetically modified organism food that they are distributing. That's so-called wealth that they distribute. And when you have wealth, you eat, right? When you have wealth, you drink. With wealth, you clothe yourself. And so what they able to do is dump fake money in the system and keep things circulated, and people will sleep. But Paul say, wake up, brothers and sisters. Let me finish. Man, I'm long-winded. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Now, Paul told them that. And he was talking about the Spirit pressed upon him in that day and time, that judgment was going to come because Jerusalem was still a nation. It was under oppression. But it was time for the prophecy to be fulfilled. The 400-year prophecy, it started, it kicked off in 70 AD because they ran in the bush and hid. And then not too long after that, Islam was started. And then you had, even after, I'm getting ahead of myself. During that time, a lot of them were fed to the lions. During that time, they were persecuted major. That was judgment coming up on them, our ancestors at that time. And many of them hid in the bush. And they went through a long time session of persecution until Constantine seen that he couldn't break all of these Hebrews, so he began to form the religion along with the consul, along with some wayward Hebrew Israelites that taught them the oracles, principles, standards of the Most High. And when he did that, then they were able to establish Christianity. Then they wanted to expand out in other regions. But then Romans were dealing with barbarians. And so they couldn't really handle these barbarians, because these barbarians, the Visigoths and all these Vandals, they were coming down, they were fighting. Someone was fighting, barbarians fighting naked, penis swinging and fight. I'm raw. I get raw. But what happened was they needed a radical group of people. And these people that they wanted to capture was not having Christianity. So what they did, they began to form Islam. And they used Muhammad to do it. And this was the key to rally these radical people so they can move ahead and conquer other lands. Brothers and sisters, this is deep. But getting back to what Paul is saying, he's saying our salvation is nearer than when we believe. He told them that, and I'm and many other brothers, we are telling you the same thing. Look at verse 12. The night is far spent, and the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Cast it off. Work of darkness. Oh yeah, Jesus, that's work of darkness. We are holding on to it. But Paul say, let us, he talking to those who are willing to hear, who are willing to believe. He telling them to cast it off. But many people, they don't want to cast it off. And so then he goes on to say, let me move on. I wanted to elaborate on it, but I'm running out of time. He said, let us walk honestly as in day, not in rioting, drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying, but put ye on the Master, Yahushua, the Messiah. That's what we have that's righteous. It's righteousness. You remember in John One of the epistles say, my little children, these things write I unto you, that we sin not. But if any man sin, they have an advocate with the Father. That's that communion. That's that reunion. Yahushua, the Messiah, the righteous. He's righteous. How is he righteous? Because he did the will. He said, I don't do my will. I do the Father's will. And that's what we have to do. And in order to put him on, we have to do his will. And he said, I come in my name, and you receive me not. If another come in his name, him you will receive. Guess who came in his own name? Jesus, the son of Zeus. Many people say it ain't Zeus. Get on out. I don't want to hear it. I'm not debating with you. If that's what you want to believe, believe it. I ain't got time to be debating with people. I ain't got time to be arguing with people. I ain't got time to be... You got to put them on, brothers and sisters. And let me tell you something. There's a lot of people that do not want to put them on. A lot of preachers, they don't want to put them on. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to lose their congregation. They're afraid they're going to lose their status. You're going to lose it anyway. This kingdom is falling. But you refuse to put on Yahushua. You're holding on. And you want to hold on to Christianity, and you want to kind of embrace this truth. You can't hold on. You got to let him go. What did Yahushua say? He said, no man can serve two masters. You either cleave to one and you let go of the other, or you love one and hate the other. You can't serve two masters. But you have a lot of pastors. They know this truth, but they're afraid. They have accumulated wealth, and they accumulated riches in this system. And a lot of them got 501(c)(3)s or whatever you call them. 501(c)(3), I forgot what you call them, but they are in covenant with the government. They are in covenant with this kingdom. They are in covenant with Revelation, the 18th chapter, and we are here. We are seeing it crumble right before our eyes, but they will not tell you, brothers and sisters. If you're going to put on Yahushua, you have to put him on. You got to come out of the church. You got to come out of that religious belief system. You got to come out of Egyptology. You got to come out of mysticism. You got to come out of metaphysics. You got to come out of Buddhism. You got to come out of Islam. You got to come out of Hinduism. You got to come out of Confucianism. You got to come out of Taoism. You got to come out of all these religious belief systems that was set up by angels. Fallen angels set up these religious belief systems so that you, brothers and sisters, can worship them instead of worshiping the Father. This is why Jews said they have left their first estate. But Paul said, let it go and put on. But when you put it on, brothers and sisters, it's uncomfortable. Like my sister, the dress was uncomfortable, but she kept it on. She continued to wear the dress, even though she was uncomfortable. She wore it. And this is what we were like. And then next thing you know, she was laughing and talking. She had forgotten all about it. It's the same thing. But it's going to cost you something to put on the Messiah, brothers and sisters. It may be rough around the neck, may be tight around the waist. And not only that, even when you put it on, people are going to shun you. People are going to ostracize you. You're going to be forsaken. Yahushua said he came to bring a sword, brothers and sisters. And he meant what he said. Even mother, father, sister, and brother, people say that's a cult. Yahushua said in his word, what you going to do? Turn his word around and try to make it null and void? You can't make it null and void, because he said heaven and earth will pass away, but my word shall never pass away. So it doesn't matter what you're going to do, no matter what you say. If you continue to go down that road, you're headed for destruction. I'm telling you. You remember that rap song back in the early 90s? For destruction. You're headed for destruction. That's where you're headed. Most of you preachers, you don't want to do it. And I talk to preachers, and they are frightened. What are you frightened for? I thought you loved the Father. Yeah, it was easy to talk about Abraham when you was preaching and had the mic going and had the organ playing and had the people doing this. It was fun, and he was motivated. But now, when it's time to for the mother rubber beat the road and it's time to do it, now all of a sudden it becomes difficult. Brothers and sisters, it's saying, put on. Look at it. Verse 14, Romans 13:14. But put ye on the Master, Yahushua, the Messiah. I know it say the Lord Jesus Christ. For those of you that don't know,